of racketeering activity, and also while associated with an enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. That the associates of the enterprise Young Slime Life, also known as YSL, that they did conspire to associate together with others for the common purpose of illegally obtaining money and property through a pattern of racketeering activity and conducting and participating in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. And in furtherance of the conspiracy, the defendants engaged in certain activities which are enumerated. Some of those activities include preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through acts of racketeering activity, including murder, assault, and threats of violence. Preserving, protecting, and enhancing the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise by the posting of messages, images, videos, and songs demonstrating an allegiance to the enterprise and a willingness to engage in violence on its behalf. That maintaining armed individuals ready and willing to preserve, protect, enhance the reputation, power, and territory of the enterprise through the use of violence, and obtaining money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity, including robbery, theft, and the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. The state will also prove that YSL is a criminal street gang that started in the late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area of Atlanta, Georgia, that some of the founders were Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, also known as Slime, Walter Murphy, also known as DK, and this defendant, Trontavia Stevens, also known as Tick, and also known as Slug. That YSL uses a variety of identifiers, including colors, clothing, tattoos, and hand signs, as well as verbal and written identifiers. And we would show that this defendant had a tacit understanding of the enterprise and furthered the enterprise's goals with several acts. Some of those acts are...
We're cutting right through the top of the storm.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. We've gone down on an island. This is an emergency. My passengers, move! My responsibility. I gotta go after them.
You're gonna need this.
Clock is ticking.
Let's go!
Gerard Butler in Plane, only in theaters January 13th, rated R.
From January of 2013, this defendant, in which he pled guilty, was accused of aggravated assault, in which on that day, an officer with the APD Police Department was working in an undercover capacity. That officer was at an apartment complex in the Cleveland Avenue area doing surveillance on a vehicle that had been hijacked by another YSL associate. While operating in that undercover capacity, Mr. Stevens came out of the apartment along with that other YSL associate and brandished his handgun at that officer. Next, we have another act, Your Honor, where Mr. Stevens has a picture of himself on social media. He has several pictures on social media. Some of those captions on the video, on the images, identify YSL by using the term slime shit, and actually tags Mr. Stevens with one of his former Instagram handles as original slime _ slug. Also in January 2015, he has a drug incident that comes from 1813 Sylvan Road, in which he was found with narcotics in the vehicle. Also in one of the counts in our indictment, Your Honor, he was in a car off of Cleveland Avenue, which is in the YSL stronghold. He was in that car with a co-defendant on this indictment, Shannon Jackson, also known as Shannon Stillwell. While in the car, officers smelled the odor of marijuana. Upon the search of the vehicle, they found marijuana and a gun. At the time of finding both the gun, both him as well as Mr. Jackson were both convicted felons, and they were then charged accordingly. Your Honor, as you heard within the factual acknowledgement, he's also been engaged in conversations with other members of this indictment, we won't go back over what was said, but you also heard that through the factual acknowledgement in this case. So, Your Honor, based upon that factual synopsis and Mr. Stevens' affiliation, we will ask that the court accept his plea. Also, we would like to tender Stacey's Exhibit 1 TS into evidence.
One which?
TS.
One TF?
Yes.
Any objection, Ms. Gladden?
No, Your Honor.
All right, states 1 TF is admitted. Ms.
TS, Your Honor, S as in Stevens.
CS?
T as in Trontavious, S as in Stevens.
All right. Any objection, madam?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it's admitted for purpose of plea. Ms. Hilton, those facts that you elucidated for the court, those are facts that the state would have proven had the case gone to trial beyond a reasonable doubt as it pertains to Mr. Stevens?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Ms. Gladden, again, good evening, madam. Anything you want to present on Mr. Stevens' behalf?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Judge, I just wanted to point out, as the court, of course, can ascertain by the fact that he was only charged in the RICO count. He's not involved and hasn't been charged separately in any criminal activity regarding this case. It has been alleged against some other co-defendants. He had a string of issues in 2011, 12, 13. He went to prison in 2015 and has been out since the end of 2018, and since then he's been a model parolee. He's passed all of his urine screens. He's not gotten in any more trouble. In fact, they put a parole hold on him, but when they found out that this was mostly based on old crimes and a few posts that were innocuous and some pictures, they did remove the parole hold. So I'm asking the court to accept the state's recommendation, and I just wanted to point out that he's tried to be a good citizen and do what he's supposed to do since he's been out of prison, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Stevens, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, do you have the opportunity to fully discuss the facts and circumstances of this case with your attorney, Ms. Gladden, to your satisfaction?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did she explain to you the various constitutional rights you give up by pleading guilty to your satisfaction?
Yes, Your Honor.
Those are the same rights that my prosecutor, Ms. Hilton, just set forth on the record a few minutes ago. Do you have any questions about those rights you wish to ask me?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I am holding the indictment in this case, okay? And on page 6 of the indictment, I'm going to show you. Is this your signature on the page of this indictment above the word defendant?
Yes, sir.
All right. Before signing this indictment, did you have the opportunity to fully discuss the facts and circumstances of this indictment with your attorney, Ms. Gladden, to your satisfaction?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you need more time to discuss it with her?
No.
Okay. But before you signed it, you had an opportunity to talk with her,
Yeah.
and you don't want to talk with her about the indictment anymore?
No.
Okay, all right. I'll note the indictment's been signed and the plea has been entered. Mr. Stevens, based upon the responses that you've given during the court's inquiry, I find that your guilty plea is freely and voluntarily entered. I find a factual basis for your plea. I'm going to accept your plea as tendered and as negotiated. To count 1, conspiracy to violate the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, the court will sentence you to 10 years to serve 2 years. I'll commute that to the time you already served, with a balance of 8 years on probation, subject to the special conditions that have already been set forth on the record. I'll go through those with you right now, but is that your understanding as to the base sentence?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you shall abide by each and every condition of the negotiated agreement. That's the one that you signed and Ms. Gladden signed along with the state's counsel. Remember that one?
Yes, sir.
All right, that states SC1 as it pertains to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right. You shall testify truthfully about all matters relating to this case upon which you are questioned in any trial or judicial proceedings stemming from the facts alleged in the indictment. You agree to do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In accordance with testifying truthfully about the statements contained within the defendant's factual acknowledgments, which was already read into the record, are true, you shall testify about those statements in any matters related to the case when you're asked to do so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You'll possess no guns unless your right to do so is restored. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You shall submit to random screens as required by the Department of Community Supervision and any agency designated by this court. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You shall commit no criminal acts.
Yes, sir.
All right, and also you'll be subject to a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. unless you're otherwise working, in school, or an emergency situation arises. How old are you, sir?
29.
29?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any children?
Yes, sir.
How many children do you have?
3.
How old are they?
11 and 2 7-year-olds.
Okay, so let's say, for example, your 7-year-old gets sick, or your, is it 12-year-old or 10-year-old?
11.
11-year-old gets sick, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You need to take them to a doc in a box or some of the emergency room. That wouldn't violate your probation, okay?
All right.
Or you need to go pick up your mother at the airport at Hartsfield at very early in the morning. That wouldn't violate your probation, okay?
All right.
But if you're out someplace where you're not supposed to be, like a strip club, past this particular point in time, at 10 o'clock in the evening, you'll have some problems. You'll be coming back to see me. You should be at home anyways. It's a statistical probability that it's less likely that crime will find you or you will be involved in criminality if you're at home between the hours of 11 and 4 in the morning. Okay, unfortunately, those are the times that we have a lot of things that go on within our city that it's not a guarantee, but it'll lessen your being involved in that for your family's sake and for your sake. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you can't have any contact with anybody else in this indictment until these proceedings are over.
Yes, sir.
And what I mean by that is until the appellate procedure in this particular case is over, if any. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any questions about my sentence?
No, sir.
Ms. Gladden or Ms. Hilton, any clarifications on the court's entry of sentence or defense entry of plea?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from defense, Your Honor.
All right, then that'll be the sentence of the court. Mr. Stevens, good luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, we're in recess on this matter? Okay.
What's your address that I would
Edward?
2914.
212
15.
15?